Okay, let me begin by saying that I'm a Call of Duty fanatic. I'm Karen Peterson, and I'm a college student at East Central College. I'll now tell you about my story about how I fell under the curse of Red Tuesday. One day on the 13th of October 2012, I was walking home from East Central with my friends Reggie Williams, Mike Tobin, Vanessa Brooks, and Preston Peters when I saw this weird looking Call of Duty game sticking out of the trash can nearby. I picked it up and read the title, which said Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 Wrath of God. I grew increasingly excited and decided to invite my friends to my house and figure out what this game was about. I got home and popped the game disc into my Xbox 360 and sat down to play the game. Reggie hooked up his game controller and decided to be player 2, assuming that I would play online multiplayer. First, a box popped up that said, "This game may contain content that may be graphic and or disturbing to some players. Are you sure you want to continue?" Below the box were two choices. I could pick yes or no, so I chose yes. The introduction was out of whack. It showed the Russian army shooting at Delta Force for 15 seconds before going to the main menu. There were three options: single-player campaign, 4-player co-op, and online multiplayer. I chose the co-op option, and the entire screen suddenly blacked out for 10 seconds before an awful picture appeared. It showed a soldier that looked like someone scratched him really hard with a red-hot poker stick. The eyes were bright red, and he screamed out the words, "Get out of here!" repeatedly. The soldier was in Delta Force guard, but wore a US Marine helmet. I was startled by the weird and morbid picture for a moment before the first campaign mission, Red Tuesday, began. My first reaction was, didn't they mean Black Tuesday? However, I kept going. The introduction was a faithful copy of the introduction from Modern Warfare 3's Black Tuesday, only Reggie and I had to rescue tourists instead of destroy a jammer. Then the most horrible introduction in any campaign began. I started playing as a Task Force 141 soldier named Anne Herefordshire, a British soldier transferred to Task Force 141 from the Special Air Service. I was trapped inside a huge cage with flames raging all around me. My character was tied to a steaming hot pole and tortured by two demonic creatures. One of them had red eyes and smoke was trailing from its nostrils. It had a head like an ogre, but with leathery fingers with iron-hot fingernails. The other beast had a minotaur-like appearance, only with a furry lower body like a deer, and a hairless upper body like a human. The first creature jammed a slimy object into my character's mouth and forced her to look at Captain Price, who was hanging upside down and being used as a punching bag by two other demonic creatures. Huge hands started sticking out of the ceiling and grabbed my character by the hair, who spit the slimy thing out of her mouth and started screaming for help when the screen went black, with the titles in big red letters. Then the real mission began with the sound of whispering, and later my entire room was plunged into darkness. I could feel Reggie and everyone else, including myself, breathing heavily. Then a huge light invaded the blackness, and before I knew it, I was actually inside the game environment. I was tied to a chair just like Alex Mason from Call of Duty Black Ops, with Reggie being chained to a wall, Tobin trapped inside an Iron Maiden, and Vanessa and Preston being put in identical chairs on either side of me. I tried to say something, but I couldn't say anything. I looked around and realized my head was stuck inside some kind of apparatus that prevented me from talking. I screamed, but no one heard me except a huge shadow outside. I screamed again, hoping that shadow, whoever it was, would come and rescue me. I looked down and saw green letters for me across the floor. What is this? I thought, a reality game show? Then I saw the title, Red Tuesday. Below the letter, I saw a full name appear in the location, which was a torture chamber in New York City, and the date, February 13th, 2016. I screamed a third time for the shadow to come and get me, and it responded by carefully unlocking a doorknob. The door opened and the shadow turned into someone from Modern Warfare 3, someone that I knew. I screamed a fourth time, and the shadow eventually revealed himself as Captain John Price. Sometime later, Soap McTavish ran into the room and said, "This is Bravo 6, we found the package, over." I suddenly froze. I was a package being held by the Russians or Op 4 or whoever I was fighting against. These men were sent to rescue me. Captain Price opened the apparatus, allowing me to speak. I said, "Price, thank God! I thought I'd be stuck in that thing forever." Price just smiled as he undid the straps tying me to the chair and helping me to my feet. "Let's go," he said. "The inner circle won't be gone for long." And so the inner circle kidnapped me, inside this game world. I felt kind of awkward not knowing that in the first place. Then two Russians, Nikolai and Yuri, entered the room, and Yuri gave me an M4A1 grenadier with an ACOG sight. The whole room suddenly exploded, and Shadow Company troops began running into the room. I switched to my secondary weapon, which I found was an RPK-74M, and began firing at the American soldier. Suddenly, Vladimir Makarov, remember him, entered the room and told Price of a safe house he had with the Russian army. Safe house? I thought Makarov was a bad guy. It seemed I forgot to check the back of the box to find any modifications from the actual game, because when he said what I heard he say, I was confused. I had the impression Makarov turned into a good guy in this game. The real bad guy turned out to be, as I learned from Makarov, Solomon from Battlefield 3? What? Anyway, Makarov then came to me and said, "I need your help, Karen." I was baffled, as I didn't know how he knew my name or if he had ever heard of me. Then I figured a hypothesis. This was an ordinary first-person shooter. Then Price kicked open the door and I was met with another guy from the Modern Warfare series, Gary Roach Sanderson from Modern Warfare 2. He said to me that I was assigned to protect Makarov's assault team, which consisted of Viktor Reznov from Call of Duty World at War and Black Ops, Simon Ghost Riley from Modern Warfare 2, James Ramirez from Modern Warfare 2, and Henry Blackburn from Battlefield 3? What? I was ordered to combat Shadow Company soldiers in New York City and rescue some tourists that had been kidnapped by the Shadow Company. It didn't take me long to realize that these tourists were actually people from East Central. First there was Raymond Peterson, my brother, Preston Whittington from Calculus, and Alexa Makarova from Art Class. I was ushered into a Gaz-2975 and was ordered to use the DSHK machine gun as Makarov drove through the streets of New York. I began shooting away at the Shadow Company soldiers down Wall Street as we approached the stock exchange. Boom! An RPG hit the vehicle and I was thrown out. I regained consciousness just in time to see two Shadow Company soldiers apprehending Yuri, who's being dragged out of his tall little taxi cab. He stole it, by the way. And beaten Ghost and Roach were taken away in handcuffs, while Blackburn, Ramirez, Reggie, Vanessa, and everyone else was taken away in MH-53 Pavlo. Captain Price tried to save me, but was apprehended upon trying to shoot my captors. I was soon knocked out by a soldier's rifle, and half an hour later I woke in a torture chamber. I was inside a cage with my hands tied behind me. I tried to speak, but my mouth was sealed shut with glue. Okay, this is getting too scary for me, so I screamed through the tape for help, only to be answered in silence. I turned and saw Makarov chained to the wall in front of me, just outside the cage were my fellow college students. Preston was dead, leaving Alexa and Raymond as the only ones alive. Right next to me, Vanessa was blindfolded and tied to a chair. She was unconscious. Meanwhile, Makarov had a plan of his own, and it seemed to be working. He broke out of his chain and peeled the glue from my lips, while one of his men rescued Soap and Price, who were kept in another cage just across the room. I freed Vanessa and helped her outside when, "Get down!" Yuri screamed. A helicopter slammed into the wall and the floor beneath me opened. Demonic hands began reaching for me and started to pull me down. I was in hell, trapped in a cage like a prisoner serving a life sentence. Beside me, Makarov was wraithing in a fiery pit while Soap and Price were being tortured in a cage with maggots all over the walls. Yuri was coughing uncontrollably while Henry Blackburn was repeatedly being stabbed by a bunch of demons in front of Satan who was sitting on its throne and laughing like a maniac. Then when it was all over, I was back in my room with my friends. The TV was still running and the screen showed the main menu of the game, which now had a message reading, "Congratulations, Karen, you have won the game. Would you like to 1. Continue, or 2. Quit?" I chose the continue option. And then I heard Makarov saying, "You have been chosen to..." But at that moment, the TV shut off. I ejected the game from the Xbox and collapsed on the chair, having no memory whatsoever about what happened to me in the game. To be continued. Red Tuesday.